Well, God bless you. Thank you so very much. Well, God bless you. Thank you so very much this morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being a part of the broadcast. Thank you for sharing a few minutes of your walk of faith, your journey, your kingdom journey with me here this morning, as you do on every Sunday morning. I really do appreciate you and um, and the time that you take to be a part of what we're doing here at Kingdom Voice. As we get ready to get started this morning, I want to just take a few minutes to take care of a few formalities. Um, and all of you that would like to connect with us and to share just one-on-one. I certainly invite you to join us and to reach out to me via email. And you can see it on your screen right now. Email address at lcbellamy@yahoo.com. That is, in fact, my personal email address, and it comes right to me. I read every one of them. So thank all of you that have been reaching out, and I want to ask that you continue to do so. Just share your thoughts, your journey, your insights with respect to the kingdom of heaven, because certainly that's what I believe the kingdom is all about. And well, not all about, but certainly a major part of the kingdom is us sharing one with another. And as we do, we grow stronger. We understand more of the kingdom, and it makes our walk and our journey more fruitful. You can also reach us by mail at Kingdom Voice Broadcast at 214 Remington Road, Huntsville, Texas, 77340. Our podcast is the Spotify, is on the Spotify platform at Kingdom Talk. And then our website is rotruth.org. And lastly, for those of you that would like to make a contribution, feel free to do so. You can do so on the Cash App or the PayPal platforms. You can see the handles there on your screen. The Cash App is the $ LC Bellamy, and PayPal, the @ LC Bellamy, and you can reach us there and share whatever monetary gift you would like to share as you're so late. So thank you so very much as we get ready to move forward with the broadcast today. I want to encourage all of you this morning. I know we've just come out of a very tumultuous campaign season, and there are a lot of people that are making head and tails of all that went on and all that transpired and how things finally transpired, and okay, that's a part of the process. And as that process unfolded and came to fruition, either your candidate won or your candidate lost. Those were the two options that we had, and that left some people, as my grandson would say, feeling some kind of way, and others feeling some kind of way. It just depends on how you positioned yourself within the campaign season, and the how you were positioned within the electorate. You casted your vote, and that's a good thing, that you casted your vote. There was something that someone said to me once that says, you get the government you vote for, and if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. Okay? You get the government you vote for, not you as an individual, but we as a people. We get the government we vote for. Okay? And if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. And that holds true a bit, especially in the constitutional republic that we have here in the United States. So today I want to talk about why partisan politics fail us as kingdom heirs. And I want to talk about this, and I'm going to try to be very forthright in my presentation today, and but also want to present factual representation of what we do by way of kingdom heirs and our participation in the political process. Now, if you've watched this broadcast for any length of time, you understand that I have embraced and a part of my kingdom journey. I've embraced the understanding that we're not here to go to heaven. We're here to take dominion. We're here to have dominion impact on this earth and in this socio-economic, political environment and global community that we've become. Many people have taken the position that we're born, we get saved, we get ready, and then we get going, right? By that, I mean, we're born into this world, we get saved, we prepare ourselves, and then we're raptured. I completely am devoid of that type of mindset. This is not about getting ready to get out of here. This is about getting ready to take dominion. The dominion mandate. And as such, as we take dominion in the earth, as we take our position as heirs of the kingdom, we begin to move into all of these areas of social engagement, whether it's political, educational, financial, social, whether it is any of those areas of responsibility, of engagement, we participate, okay? Whether it's technical or scientific, all of those educational, all of those things are a part of us engaging and participating in this construct that we call a constitutional republic here in the United States, or whether it's a dictatorial regime in some other country, or whether it is a democratic representation of government in another. We participate and we infuse the kingdom into that construct, whichever one it is, and wherever it is, and whatever level it is. We interject and inject the kingdom construct into that. And I believe many of us are starting to come to that understanding. Many of us are starting to embrace that idea that we're not here just to wait for Jesus to come get us. And by the way, I use that term loosely. Again, if you watch this program, you know I'm not an advocate of Jesus Christ. I'm an advocate of Yeshua HaMashiach, which we can talk about that at a later date. But we are not waiting for that Jesus to come get us. We're here to take dominion so that when our Lord returns, we have something to present to him in homage of his sacrifice that allowed us to become heirs of the kingdom, sons and daughters of the Most High. So again, I want to just kind of preface what we want to talk about today with that. Before we get started too far, I want to invite all of you dialogue with me. I can see your comments. I can see your comments coming in live. And so if you have a question or comment or something that you just want to say and share, feel free to do that. We'll discuss it and we'll dialogue about it here on the airwaves. You can type your comments and rebuttal to what I share, but I do want to hear your thoughts and your comments and the things that you would like to share concerning what we're talking about today, and that is partisan politics and our walk here in the kingdom. And so with that being said, let's kind of get started in that direction. So why partisan politics fail us as the kingdom heirs? So today we're going to talk about both politics and some would call religion. And if you listen to much about, especially in the workplace or in social circles or in social gatherings, there are two things that people tell you never to talk about. One of them is politics, the other one is religion, and today we're going to talk about both. So we're going to talk about both of them in a sense, if you will, and I use air quotes on that because I don't believe I engage in religion. I engage in intimacy and relationship, but many people would class that as religion. I get that, but suffice it to say. So, and so today, as we talk about why partisan politics fail us as kingdom heirs or as sons and daughters of the Most High. Here's what politics is, and you're watching it. We're fresh off the heels of the most combative political season of our lifetime. And I've heard that in prior to us in the early 30s, early 1900s, there were some very contentious political battles. But it's different for us because in those days it was played out against in front of a small audience, not just population-wise, but people that were engaged in the political rhetoric of the day. All they had were newspapers, and not many people could read. And all they had, they didn't have television in many instances in some of those tough battles back then. So all they had was newspapers, and that news traveled slowly, and the process played out much slower in front of a much smaller audience. Nowadays, it plays out in full color in front of everybody with a smart device in their hand, or with an email address, or with a text message capable device. You get inundated on every front. And so it plays out in front of us in a much more robust and aggressive way. That's what happens with things today versus things in days past. And so the partisanism that takes place in these political displays that we just came out of, the one for president and Senate races and House of Representatives on a national scale, and the local races and the local Senate races, and all of those things played out in front of us in living color. And the challenge for many of us that are kingdom heirs is the challenge of getting caught up into partisanism. And what does that mean when I say partisanism? Partisanism is the idea that I am going to participate in the political activities of the day based on an identity with one of the political parties, strictly on the basis of that affiliation. Let me break that down a little bit better. Partisanism says that I am going to participate in the political ecosystem based on my identity as being a part of one of the major political parties, okay? Or one of the political parties. We have independents, we have Democrats, we have Republicans, we have, those three major parties, if you will. And partisanism says that I am going to participate because I'm a Republican, or I'm going to participate and vote and engage because on the basis of being an independent, or on the basis of being a Democrat, whichever the case may be. That's partisanism. And that means that if you're not with me on the Democrat or the Republican or the independent side, then now I don't want to hear what you have to say. What you have to say is irrelevant to me. What you have to say means nothing. And matter of fact, what you have to say is wrong, not because of the merits of what you have to say, but because it doesn't come from my side of the political discussion. And therein lies the challenge that many people have and face, and many kingdom heirs can get sucked up into that type of partisanism. Okay. And as someone having lived through many cycles of that political display, I can tell you that partisanism has never served me. And now you may find something different, but partisanism has never served me well at all. Because let me tell you something about all three of the political parties. They are all self-serving. You've heard me talk about being self-serving. You've heard me talk about how the church and Christianity is self-serving. It preserves itself. It does what it does, and it positions itself to preserve itself. And if you don't benefit from its preservation, then you're just out of luck. Okay? Because it's not going to change. It is not going to adjust for you. You have to adjust to be and to participate and to take advantage of it. And oftentimes, you making adjustments to benefit from those things requires that you compromise the standards of the kingdom in order for you to engage with it. I'm not going to compromise the standards of the kingdom so that I can win a political race or so that I can participate in a religious engagement. I'm not going to do that. And I encourage you not to do that as well. Okay, so why does partisan politics fail us as kingdom heirs? I want you to think about something for just a second. The bedrock, the foundation, the absolute mandate of the kingdom of heaven is the reality of truth. Okay? From the reality of truth, and we arrive at this understanding of what is best, what is right. Okay? All right? And so when we start looking at the issues on the basis of truth, one would have to begin to ask the question, what does God want? And I'm not going to say one way or the other, one is right and the other is wrong. I'm going to say, what does God want? What does Elohim want from me? Not from us, from me. Okay? What does Elohim want from me? And that's a question that you have to answer as a part of your intimacy with Elohim. I'm going to step back for a second and talk about that for just a little bit. You've heard me talk about on this broadcast so many times the importance and the emphasis of intimacy with Elohim and how that intimacy impacts every aspect of your walk of and your journey into the kingdom and your walk of faith. It impacts everything because everything involving your relationship with Elohim begins with your intimacy with Elohim, and therein lies the ability for you to understand what it is that Elohim would have you to do and to be a part of. Okay? And when you start talking about intimacy, as it relates to this topic today, partisan politics, you'll begin to understand that your intimacy will overshadow and usurp your partisan political position. I'll give you an example. And I'll give you two because I don't want to cast shadows one way or the other. I'll give you two examples, and I'll start with the conservative position or Republican position, if you will. So many conservatives and Republicans believe that affirmative action should be abolished and done away with. Okay? And in that position, they make the statement, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and go make it happen. Okay, that's a reasonable position to take. But what's fails to be understood in that position is, well, what do we do about the racism? What do we do about the prejudices that accompany many of those issues surrounding affirmative action, and why affirmative action was necessary in the beginning? And so the argument will be made, well, we've overcome that. No, the devil is a lie. We have to overcome those things. So I get the idea that, okay, we may need to deal with abolish affirmative action, but what are you going to do with the residue that still remains of why affirmative action was necessary in the first place? Okay. So the kingdom requires that we deal with injustice, with prejudice. The kingdom mandates that we deal with social injustice. So I cannot just turn a blind eye to the social injustice for a partisan position of abolishing affirmative action. That's just an example I wanted to express. So many people would take that position, and because they are, quote, conservative, or because they are, quote, Republican, they take that position, irrespective of the idea that the issues that created the necessity of affirmative action are still there. You can't argue that. That's inarguable. There is no argument about that. Let me tell you why there is no argument about that. Most people that make the argument against affirmative action fail to address this issue. 99% of the time, no, not 99%, probably more like about 98% of the time that the decision making is being had about hiring an individual for a particular position, that decision is often made by someone of one race toward someone either of the same race or a different race. But the dominant decision making is coming from a particular race. Okay? And when you start talking about the prejudices that come with making that decision, you now run into the issue of racial prejudice and profile. And so if the person making those decisions are predominantly of a particular race, and that often is projected upon someone of a different race, then the issue of prejudices and discrimination and racism must be dealt with. And therein lies the issue that affirmative action can be argued that it needs to maintain and be maintained. Just an example. Just an example. The flip side, or the antithesis of that discussion, of that issue, is a very partisan position, is the issue of abortion. And many people have had, and as we all know and we all understand, is a very, just like affirmative action, is a very heated and charged, emotionally charged issue. So is abortion on the other side. So if I'm going to be a Democrat, if you will, then I must take the position that abortion is okay. Okay. Now I'm going to get back to affirmative action for just a second. I mean, in a minute. But if I'm going to be a good Democrat, then I must take the position that abortion is okay, irrespective of the fact that abortion is, and by listen, every measure and stretch of the imagination, abortion is taking the life of an innocent human being. Okay, end of discussion. And I've heard all of the discussions. But we want to make the argument, or Democrats want to make the argument that in order to be with us, you have to vote and you have to participate this way. Now, I've given you two examples and two prominent examples from partisanism on one side and partisanism on the other side. Now the question becomes, what does the kingdom say about these positions? This is where your intimacy with Elohim comes into the picture. My intimacy with Elohim begins to tell me that that the direction that I need to go is going to be the direction of the kingdom and not the direction of a partisan position. Elohim is going to always direct me in the direction of truth, in the direction of righteousness and justice and judgment. Elohim is going to direct me in that direction, always. And that may not conform to the ideology of a particular political party. It may not. And this is what I'm talking about partisan politics fail us as kingdom heirs. It attacks the unity of the kingdom. It attacks the oneness of the kingdom. If we are willing to listen to Elohim and allow them to tell us what is right, just, holy, and true, then we'll find our way to that place of unity and oneness and harmony. I didn't say everybody would agree. No, let me back up. That's not what I wanted to say. I'm not saying that everybody would be the same, but I am saying that we would come into agreement. We would harmonize. We would be unified. And we have to understand that Elohim has the wherewithal to bring all of the body together, to understand, to be in harmony, to be one with each other in respect to our kingdom assignment as it relates to the dominion mandate that we have being here in the earth. So partisan politics are filled with contradictions of your kingdom identity. They contradict your kingdom identity. They fail us. It failed us. I've seen in this political cycle, I've seen so many things that I find to be stunning, quite frankly. And I've seen it manifested in my own family, in my own gatherings, and it is quite stunning. And these are people that all of us, and I say us, I'm included, declaring to be kingdom citizens. And what I'm finding out is that most people are still Christians rather than kingdom citizens. And I'm going to say something that we have to understand with respect to Christianity is that you have to understand that it was the Southern Christian, in many respects, that promoted slavery. And they took the biblical text to justify slavery, okay? And oftentimes, it was on the other spectrum that it was the Northern Republican, okay, that promoted racism in the sense of, not racism, but prejudice in the sense of, yes, you're not a slave, but you're still not like us. All of these things come on the heels of a lot of Christian behavior. And again, I'm not doing anything but sharing what we all know, but may not want to admit when it comes to Christianity. And some would make the argument, well, that's not the way it is today. Okay, I grant you that. But that doesn't mean that that's not where it came from either. And the residue of those things don't still reside and persist in many instances. Listen, beloved, I've sat in corporate boardrooms and I've watched many would-be so-called church-going folk do things that were completely contrary to what they were being taught biblically. So don't tell me about whether or not, good church-going folk don't get caught up in the residue of religious behavior. It happens all the time. This is why I put forth the subject today, why partisan politics fails as kingdom heirs. Partisan politics is a contradiction to your mandate as a kingdom heir. You cannot toe the line of partisan politics and maintain the integrity of your kingdom identity all at the same time. Those two things are diametrically opposed to one another. And at some point, they will diverge from one another. And you have to make a decision. Which one will I adhere to? Will it be my partisan political identity or will it be my kingdom identity? I submit to you that you should abandon your partisanism and adhere to your kingdom identity, because it is your kingdom identity that is going to maintain longevity, it is going to maintain truth, it is going to maintain justice, and it is going to maintain righteousness. Your partisan identity, your partisan politics will only satisfy a temporary want to win. This is why it fails us. And I talk to people all the time. I speak with people across the country, across the world, and I am sharing with you today that I am watching people that are good, that would otherwise be good Christians. And I'm saying that explicitly. Okay? And some even that would otherwise be good kingdom citizens and heirs fall victim to the partisanism of politics. So let me share with you just a little bit about what I've observed in this season. We get into what we call, and some of you may not be familiar with this term, echo chambers. So let me give you a little experiment that I did during this political season. See, I understand what an echo chamber is, and I understand how social media and social platforms promote echo chambers. Okay? So what an echo chamber is the phenomenon where you get around people that believe what you believe, and they echo what you are saying by their beliefs, and you echo what they are saying by your beliefs, and you basically just echo each other, and you talk about the same things, maintain the same belief, maintain the same sentiments around a particular subject matter. And so in essence, because you're talking to the same people on a regular basis, those people and you create what is known and become euphemistically as an echo chamber. Okay? And people, and these little echo chambers begin to develop and get bigger and bigger because you meet more people and so forth and so on. So what I did one day to avoid the phenomenon of being trapped by an echo chamber with respect to this political season that we just got through was, let me back up. I know how these social media platforms work. And for those of you that don't know, I need to educate you here. The way these social media platforms work is they work by what is known as algorithms. And these algorithms watch what you watch, and then they feed you what you watch. So if you like to watch cars or carpentry or fishing or politics, it's going to feed you that. It's going to feed that. If you like to watch a particular kind of fishing or woodworking or politics, that's what it's going to feed you. And the next thing you know is that you're getting inundated with all the things you want to see. Okay? So let's limit it down to just politics for this a second. If you like conservative politics, you're going to get more conservative politics. If you like liberal politics, you're going to get more liberal politics. And you're going to get more and more of that to the point that you think that everybody is seeing the same thing and reacting to it the same way that you're reacting to it. That's not the case. That's not what happens. But most people don't understand the echo chambering effect of social media. Or should I say the echo chambering component of social media. Not to mention the fact that your smartphone listens to your conversation. That's not supposition, conspiracy theory, innuendo. It is fact. Your smartphone that you carry with you on a daily basis listens to you. Have you ever wondered why you can be talking about something and the next time you open up Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X, you see advertisements for the thing you just got through talking about? That's not just coincidence. That is programmed algorithmic behavior. So when you now say something, the algorithm or the cell phone listens to it, feeds that information into an algorithm, and then that algorithm feeds you a visual of what it is that you just got through talking about, an advertisement of some sort, or content that reflects that thought. That's the way the algorithm works, okay? So this echo chamber is created, and so now you think that just because you're seeing it, everybody's seeing it. No, beloved, sorry, it's not the way it works. You're seeing it because that's what your echo chamber is delivering to you. You've got to learn how to break out of that echo chamber. So here's what I did. So I knew I have a relationship, and I think I may have mentioned this on the program before, but it suffices to say, to repeat it here. So I have a relationship that is different. It breaks me out of my echo chamber. And so what I did one day was, while I was over there visiting and engaging with them, I took the liberty to, and we were watching it on television, the YouTube channel. And so I took the liberty, instead of logging into my YouTube channel, I watched theirs. And guess what I saw? I saw everything that I didn't see on my YouTube channel. I saw all of the things that, from their perspective, that they like to watch, which was completely different from the things that I like to watch, including politics. I saw it on their YouTube channel, and everything was coming up that fed their echo chamber. So I did something. I went and took the liberty to go look for and search. Now, you can go search these things, but it doesn't automatically feed you those things. So I had to go search for it. So I went and searched for something that was diametrically opposed to what it was that I typically like to watch, or I typically review on YouTube. So I went out, and not only did I look at it, but I even liked it. And guess what happened? I started getting on my YouTube all of the things, or not all, but things now that were feeding, that were breaking out of my echo chamber. So I deliberately went out and looked at things that were diametrically opposed to what I believe, because I wanted to hear and see and understand what the other perspectives were, just so that I could break out of my echo chamber effect and issue that goes on with social media. Now, let's talk about how that phenomenon plays into partisan politics. When you start looking at your idea on an issue, until you begin to hear the arguments or the positions or the statements from other perspectives, you don't have the whole perspective. You don't have the whole understanding of the issue at hand. I'll give you an example. When I pastored, I'll never forget this. I do a lot of marital counseling, and when I first started pastoring, I fell victim to the idea, to the issue of sitting down with one of the the marriage partners, sitting down with one and without the other person being present. And so I would listen to the complaints and the disappointments of one person, and it was so compelling and so understandable and whatnot that I got I'm not going to say duped, but I got sucked into reacting to that based on what I was hearing. It was a growth process for me, but nonetheless, I got sucked into reacting to what I was hearing. And I was only getting it from one perspective. Compelling as it was, it only came from one perspective. Then one day, I had the opportunity to counsel with the other party. And after hearing the first party talk about it in one way, and now hearing the perspective of the other party talk about it from one way, I realized, and it became blatantly clear, that if you're going to get the whole story, you got to listen to multiple perspectives on that issue. Or you got to read multiple perspectives on an issue. If you are going to, and we should, participate in the political agenda, we've got to hear the arguments from multiple perspectives and not get caught up into partisan engagement. We can't just take conservative issues or liberal issues at face value as kingdom citizens, because there are some liberal issues that are legitimate. There are some conservative issues that are legitimate. There are some liberal issues that we should completely resist, and there are some conservative issues that we should completely resist. There are some economic issues and educational issues and technical issues and scientific issues and social issues that we should embrace and we should reject. And the only way you're going to break out of the political partisanism is to develop an ear for what Elohim has to say, because Elohim will give you insight and understanding as to which direction we need to go. Not emotionally, but from a standpoint of what is best, what is right, what is just, what is holy. Elohim will give us insight as to which direction we should go. And when we begin to hear what Elohim has to say, then now we arrive at that place of doing what we've heard. You will never, ever, ever achieve the standard of kingdom identity and conform to your kingdom identity adhering to partisan politics. You'll never do it. You'll be at odds with the kingdom before that happens. I understand and I know full well that many of us love our Lord. We love mother and father. And those are the people that I'm talking to. Those are the people that I am appealing to. Those of us that love mother and father, love our Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Mother. We love one another. But in many instances, we don't know how to go about expressing and demonstrating that love that we have for them. This is where learning how to hear what mother and father have to say will guide you through the process of adhering to what they're saying. I said this last week and I'll repeat it here right now. There are three aspects of mother's and father's voice. Number one, and first and foremost, you must understand and know when they're talking to you. Two, that you must understand and know what they're saying when they're talking to you. And three, you must understand the intensity of what they're saying and what they're talking about. Okay? You have to understand the urgency, not intensity, the urgency that's associated with what they are talking about. Okay? One, they're talking, two, what they're saying, and three, the urgency of what they're saying. Because if you can grasp those things, you'll begin to understand that mothers and fathers saying, no, don't, yes, do, go right, go left, stand still. Okay? You'll begin to understand those things. And when you learn how to hear mother and father's voice, then you will begin to make inroads into this kingdom mandate and journey that is upon us in this season. Most of us don't know how to hear, and I'm going to go right back to that again. Most of us don't know how or when mother and father talking to us. The only thing you have is your interpretation of scripture. That's all you got. And that's not enough in this season. It's not enough in this season for you to be able to say, oh, well, I know the Bible, I know the scriptures, and I know what this means, and I understand what this prophecy means, and all of that. Listen, that day has come and said. This season is about you hearing the voice of God, mother and father, hearing their voice. And as such, understanding what they're saying. And as such, understanding the urgency associated with what they're saying. Then you can move. Then you can respond. Then you can react. So why partisan politics fails us as kingdom heirs? Because it drags us away from the truth of our intimacy with Elohim. Because partisan politics will ultimately fail you. Because partisan politics is always contrary and contradictory to the kingdom. Because partisan politics is self-serving. Because partisan politics seeks to preserve the party associated with that political ideology. It will not serve you. I implore you not to engage in it. Don't find yourself trying to avoid, don't allow yourself to fall victim to the ideology of one political party or another. There are times that what you believe and what you are being directed to by Elohim will fall in line with one party, or fall in line with another, or fall out of line with one party, or fall out of line with another party. You're going to always be moving in and out of what others will perceive as a political position. But what you're doing is flowing and following the word and the directives and the intimacy that Elohim has established with you. Because no one political party is all right. None. Not one political party is all right and is always right. This is why I encourage you to never fall victim to partisan politics. It doesn't serve us as kingdom heirs. let me get ready to close this, and I'll say, for those of you that are listening here, if you'd like to just share a thought or comment, please do so. We can engage and we can talk about this. Don't be afraid. This is a safe space. You can talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, and how you want to talk about it. And we, you know, again, I know, like I said, this was a sensitive topic to start with, because we're talking about two things that you should never talk about in social and public circles. So I'm breaking all the rules today. So come on and join with me. We can break the rules together. So if you'd like to make a comment or share a thought or ask a question, for that matter, feel free to do so. But we're still talking about the kingdom. We're still talking about the kingdom. The kingdom is a part of all of this. Or should I say, all of this is a part of our kingdom identity. Stop trying to make the kingdom this go to heaven exercise. Because that's what most of us, especially those of us coming out of Christianity, want to do. We want to make the kingdom a go to heaven exercise. It's not. It's a dominion exercise. It's an exercise to bring us to establish dominion in the earth. And this is why it's imperative for us to get engaged with politics, to get engaged with social issues and injustices, to get engaged with law enforcement, to get engaged with technology and science and education. Speaking of which, we have to begin to understand that we've got to get and participate and engage in all of those areas that I just mentioned. And this is why it's so important for us to recognize and to understand that our kingdom journey, our kingdom identity is much broader and bigger than any political, partisan, or political participation. Okay. So let me ask this question that's begging to be answered, asked and answered. Let me say it like this. Then if we cannot get caught up with partisan politics, how do we participate in the political process? My response to that is this. In our constitutional republic, we now have 3 political parties. Okay? But you can run separate from any of those 3 parties. There is no constitutional law that says that we can only have 2, 3, 4. You can have as many parties as you can garner public support for. We have a Green Party, we have an Independent Party, we have a Republican Party, we have a Democratic Party, we have multiple different parties. But clearly the 2 big ones that garner all the political power, or most of the political power, are Republicans and Democrats. And now a strong come up is the Independent Party. So having said that, it's something that we have to begin to recognize and understand that we are to participate and engage in every aspect of this life as a part of the dominion mandate. So with that being said, and again, I know this is a very challenging topic here, because a lot of people, again, like religion, you just can't tell me this is what I believe and that's all I believe. Man, I get it. So as we get ready to close today, as we get ready to bring it to a close, I want to talk about, by way of social spotlight, my thoughts on the abolishment of the Department of Education. So there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of discussion around the Department of Education, a lot like the abortion issue, rather than it being driven from the federal level, people are now talking about it being driven from driven down at the local level. I was in a conversation over the Thanksgiving holiday with some family members who happen to be educators. And we were talking about the standards of education. And I brought up the idea that as a country, we invest more dollars per student than any other country in the industrialized world. We invest more dollars per student than any other country in the industrialized world. Russia, China, Japan, the UK, Britain, Germany, France, the Netherlands. We invest more money per student than any other country in the industrialized world. Yet, we fall and have fallen consistently in the level and quality of education. We have consistently fallen since the establishment of the Department of Education. I can't reconcile that. I cannot reconcile that we're spending more money and getting less results. So it's not an issue of throwing more money at it. We're spending more money and getting less results. There is a breakdown in the process. There's an old adage that goes, if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results, that is the quintessential definition of insanity. I know it's a euphemism, but it does speak volumes. Why are you expecting something different when you're not doing anything different? You're doing the same thing. Okay? And that's what I see taking place with the Department of Education. Clearly, we're not talking about doing away with the education of our children. But what we are talking about doing is something different than what we've done for the last, I think, 40, 45 years. And that is shifting the resources from the federal level and moving those resources to the local level so that the local educators can do what's best for the local children. And so now the question becomes the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy of the Department of Education being eradicated and moving that to the local level. You're still going to have bureaucracy, but the thought there is that the local level can be far more controlling of that bureaucracy and vote it out and make changes than they could with the bureaucracy being in Washington, D.C. And give that a chance for the next 10, 15 years, because certainly going from number 1 in education to number 43 in education in the time that the Department of Education has been in existence is a strong indictment against the effectiveness of the Department of Education. And so now the suggestion is let us do something different. So my thoughts on that is that we should do something different for the sake of our children. I told you that I was in a discussion, and one of the mandates that have come down from the Department of Education to the local state education department, and then finally to the local school district, is this idea that you remember when we were in school and you did your multiplication tables or factors. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, and then 2 times 2, 2 times 1, and right on that. You did that all the way up to 12 times 12. You remember that? You remember that? And you memorized those factors. I was told for the first time, I had no idea because my children have been out out of elementary school for 20 plus years now. But for the first time, I was told and came to the understanding that that is no longer taught in our public schools. The foundation of mathematics, and what they've replaced it with, by all accounts, is far more complex, complicated, and ineffective than what we were doing with 1 + 1, 1 × 1, 1 × 2. And it's just a microcosm of what the NEA, the DOE, Department of Education, has created as a part of whatever they thought they were doing to improve the education of our children, because most, and especially our young African-American children, are being failed miserably by the education system. I was further told that within the education system, special needs children, well, that's not what they said, that education now is really optional. And get a load of this. What's important are the dollars that come with educating that child, is what's most important. So when you follow the money, you understand that the education has fallen victim to the dollars that come with educating that child. So they put more value on the dollars than they do on the education that that child is receiving. So if anything suffers, it is the child, not the dollars. We're not going to sacrifice these dollars. It is the child. So what they do, they promote that child from grade 1 to grade 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, irrespective of whether or not they can proficiently perform at each one of those levels. Why? Because they don't want to interrupt the dollars that are associated with that child being moved from one grade to the next. So what happens? Ultimately, that child gets to the 12th grade and they're operating on a 5th grade level. Therein lies the problem with the NEA, and why I believe that moving on from the Department of Education in Washington, moving that bureaucracy down to the local level, or moving the administrative duties of the DOE up at the federal level down to the local level, and letting the local level manage the local education process and let them compete against the next district. Meaning that if this child in this district is not performing, then the parents can move their tax dollars or move their children to a district that can perform. Hello, and I'm sure all of those things will be worked out as a part of the reorganization of the Department of Education down to the local level. So I think we got one comment. Lady Jolene Cole says this, and I'll put this up on the screen. She said that it would be a lot easier to hold officials accountable at the local level. The educational money might actually be used in the children and for the children, and the dumbing down of education can be eliminated. Absolutely, Lady Jolene. Again, I absolutely conform to believe that the local education. My mother was an educator for over 40 years. My niece, my daughter, my nephew, my great niece, all educators. Two of my nephews are educators, male educators, which are unicorns in this day and age to start with. Strong, male, masculine men are educators now, and I can say with a high level of intimacy that their lives would be a lot better with local administration, where they can take the leadership on what's required and what's effective and what works at the local level than can the edicts coming down from Washington, D.C. So I'm an advocate for it, that we do away with the federal Department of Education and move those duties and responsibilities down to the local level and hold them accountable through local election and local effectiveness. So again, thank you so much, Lady Jolene, for your comment. I really do appreciate it. And thank all of you for watching and participating today as a part of the broadcast this morning. Thank you all for sharing and allowing me to share my thoughts on partisan politics and how it fails us as Kingdom Heirs. I hope and trust that you've gotten something out of the broadcast today. Share this with a friend. Share this on your social platforms, that the word can get out and that more people can be encouraged by what we're doing here at Kingdom Voice Broadcast. Until next time, I'm going to ask you to be well, be blessed. Join us again next week right here at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, be well, and we'll see you next Sunday morning.